Anyway, that's what happened. Yeah, okay. The next day, Itadori told Gojo about the demon. Itadori had revealed he was still alive to his peers before the Kyoto Sister School Goodwill event, and now he was leading a relaxed and secluded life in a room that Gojo had arranged for him. Gojo was in sunglasses and sweats, comfortable clothes for lounging at home, and flipping through the pages of a regional tourism magazine as he listened to what Itadori said. Then what? Gojo asked. There is no then what, Itadori said. Obviously, a demon that resurrects is beyond my ability. Shouldn't you come with me? Well, I'm busy. You don't look busy. Gojo was rolling around on the sofa, holding the magazine in both hands, kicking his legs, and somehow also eating daifuku. Then I'll ask Nanamine, Itadori sighed. Don't treat grade 1 sorcerers like your support center. Huh? That demon's a cinch to waste, right? It doesn't sound like this particular cursed spirit has a cursed energy over grade 3. There's no need for me to get involved, Gojo said. But it comes back no matter how many times I exercise it. There haven't been any casualties yet, but if we let it go, something bad might happen and then it'll be too late. So, exercise it until it doesn't come back anymore. If I could do that, then there'd be no problem. Yuji. Gojo raised his face from his magazine and looked at Itadori from behind his glasses. He wasn't wearing his usual flippant smile. What do you think is the main reason people can't help other people? For a moment, Itadori froze, his head filled with memories, as if they were erupting from the pit of his stomach. Countless scenes passed through his mind, so many as to make his visual field flicker. Warped human beings, twisted human beings, a mother and son he couldn't save. He hadn't been able to do anything, because they're weak. Gojo let out a faint sigh as he stood up from the sofa. That's partially true, but strength and weakness aren't everything. Gojo only knew about the movie theater and the incident at Satozakura High School from reports he'd heard. However, given the tragic events that had occurred and the harsh reality Itadori confronted, Gojo could imagine that the boy was bearing a painful burden. Despite his grounding as a sorcerer in body and mind, and despite his unusual physical constitution, Itadori was a teenager who hadn't been in the jujutsu world for long. Training could improve his cursed energy and physical strength, but a heart wasn't so easy to fix, and Gojo didn't want him to stay broken for long. He approached Itadori, who was hanging his head. In this world, tragedies too often end in misery, even when it's possible to help. But the problem isn't a lack of strength or getting there too late. As Gojo passed Itadori, he patted him on the head without making eye contact. The main reason it happens is that people forget that they have the strength to help. At those words, Itadori gasped and looked up. Itadori couldn't say he now understood what the resolution was. Nonetheless, Gojo's words enabled him to take another look at the situation. Observing this change in Itadori, Gojo smiled with satisfaction. Hey, while we're at it, let's review one more thing. What is the number one thing that gives rise to curses? Negative human emotion? If that's true, Gojo responded, then you already know the answer. Namely, that fighting and exercising aren't everything. Oh, right. One thing I like about you is you're straightforward. You get to the answers fast. Gojo's smile was the final push Itadori needed. Now that Itadori's head was clear, his body also felt unobstructed. He was already on the move. I'll see you later, sensei. No sooner had Itadori said farewell than he was racing out into the bright streets. Gojo watched Itadori depart, then plopped back down on the sofa. He had forgotten what page he was reading. It's easy to lend a hand to a child who has fallen, but it's a teacher's job to show a child how to stand up unassisted. It isn't always easy. Itadori's sincerity was a more significant attribute than his being Sukuna's vessel. As a result, trauma had the potential to become a curse more fearsome than anything else. A nasty curse, preventable only by confronting one's heart. Instead of cradling that heart, Gojo could teach it to be prepared. That's what it meant to raise students. It's much harder than teaching jujutsu. Smiling despite his serious thoughts, Gojo downed the rest of his daifuku. Alright, y'all. That is section 4 of chapter 5. Illusory Trek to the Guardian Demon. And god damn, isn't this chapter applicable? Not only to the story currently in the manga 219, but also to the current state of the JJK fandom. I hope y'all don't mind sticking with me through a little rant. But first, chapter points of interest. And I begin quoting. Itadori's sincerity was a bigger factor than him being Sukuna's vessel. As a result, trauma had the potential to become a curse more fearsome than anything else. A nasty curse, preventable only by confronting one's own heart. End quote. And that is applicable how? Well, let's break that down from the beginning. When's the other time that sincerity was mentioned in regards to Yuji Itadori? Could it have been the reason he was chosen by the Black Sparks? Sincerity is Yuji Itadori's greatest weapon. So that's cool. That's a bigger factor than him being Sukuna's vessel? Well, thank God, because he's no longer Sukuna's vessel. That sincerity gonna come in clutch if he can make a trauma demon out of this. If Yuji has properly been taught to face his own heart, to confront his own heart, to metabolize his own negative emotions properly, Gojo, then we can hope to expect he will somehow metabolize all of his... What did he tell Sukuna? Like, chew on this suffering? Yeah, all of that can be brought to the surface in a controllable way. That's a cool idea. I'm fine with it. And moving on to the next interesting detail. Gojo says the most audacious thing right in our faces. He says, and I quote, "It's easy to lend a hand to a child who has fallen, but it's a teacher's job to show a child how to stand up unassisted. It isn't always easy." Well, shit. Megumi, darling, remember your training. Wiggle your big toe. And that concludes all I have the patience to talk about regarding this section. It's time for the rant. Y'all ready for the rant? All right. I want y'all to realize that in order for a mangaka to be a legend, in order for their throne to have permanence, what the series needs and requires most of all things, whether we're talking plot, whether we're talking theme, whether we're talking characters and or their development, whether we're talking about flashiness, whether we're talking about riz, whether we're talking about female casts, the most valuable thing, what makes a mangaka a legend is reread value. The story on the whole. Now, bear with me for a second, because I think you have every right to be pissed. I also think you have every right to be a Gege gagger. I said that out loud. Holy shit. I think that everybody can feel however the fuck they want week to week. But you can't make permanent decisions about a story that has not been set in stone yet. I promised myself I wouldn't raise my voice. I've tried very hard. Reread value. If you felt confused about the current mini arc happening, starting with the Hannah flashback, because I think a lot of the gripes started there. Hannah's really strange little bit and pieces flashback, not getting a full explanation of like how her and Angel hooked up, Megumi's involvement in that not getting fleshed out, her curse technique not getting fleshed out, her death not getting fleshed out. Do you ask yourself if maybe all of these things are on pause, along with my girl Maki stuck in an ice cube for the past, 3 chapters now? Those things are on pause because they're snowballing. Megumi is obviously the current focal point. And I think the Megumi arc started with Hannah. And I think we're just going to keep getting bits and pieces until somehow we're like, oh shit, that's a puzzle? No way. But right now we're just at the part where we just bought this puzzle. We just opened that box. And we're sorting out the edge pieces from the center pieces. And then you can kind of group the center pieces into like, oh, all of these are, of the same type, and all of these are of the same type. These are all the same plot threads. These are all the same plot threads. Bro, reread value. If you think about it from the perspective of a mangaka who wants to be a legend, all right? You want your name in the books forever. Why would you not go for glory? Like, that's what our favorite characters do, dude. Like, you want people 100 years from now to be able to pick up your manga, read it from cover to cover, and be like, God damn, that was a piece of media. Why? Why would we, week to weeks, matter in the grand scheme of things? Just be like Kenjaku. Just be fascinated to watch it all unfold. Like, be pissed if you don't like the chapter. That's cool, like I said. Like, I get it. All y'all don't like circles. That's cool. Perfect spheres, that's fine. But that's physics, and that's my shit. That's up my alley. I'm happy. I'm over here, like, trying to figure out how this thing can break down an open domain from the inside out. Like, that was a theory I had going into the Tengen Kenjaku Yuki fight. I was like, oh shit. Tengen's about to turn itself into a prison realm and just collapse in as soon as Kenjaku opens its domain? Its domain? Have I taken away Kenjaku's pronouns? That's crazy. That's what rants do. Anyway, listen, y'all. I love this shit. You love this shit. Even if you don't love this shit right now, you used to love this shit. I apologize, I've begun yelling again. I will leave me with this one last riddle. I simply don't understand how somebody can say, this shit is gas, until chapter 200, and drop the manga. Do you understand how ratios work? You loved it for 200 chapters, and you've been confused for 19. One of these things is quite a bit bigger than the other. These are simply my thoughts. These are simply my opinions. These are simply my biases and my agendas. And they're also objectively true. I just really want to love JJK with y'all again. You know what I mean? I know you know what I mean. Anyway, I'll see you in the next section. We might be approaching the last one. Exciting. See y'all there.